So we've established that goals are an end towards which effort is directed, and we've also talked about the fact that goals are related to values, and values are, of course, accepted principles or standards by which a person lives his or her life. So really, goal setting is all about setting your sights on something that you want to achieve. You make a plan and you move forward towards that result. But the first step is really that you need to clearly state a plan of what you want, when you want it, and how you're going to get there. So when you make goals, guys, you need to keep in mind several of their characteristics. And in the next several slides, we're going to go through each of these characteristics in detail. So you can see the 6 characteristics up on the screen. The W stands for written, the S, specific, the R, realistic, the R has a roadmap. The A stands for anticipatory, and the I stands for incentives. So it offers built-in incentives. So you can remember these 6 characteristics by using something called a memory technique or a mnemonic. The specific mnemonic we're going to use is called an acronym, and that's where the first letter of each of those items, we're going to make up a sentence or a phrase to help us remember. Okay, so the one that I use for the 6 characteristics of goals is, why should red rabbits always itch? If you can have some kind of a visual, so I'm envisioning this cute little fluffy red rabbit scratching himself with his back hind leg. And so the question, why should red rabbits always itch? That's going to help you remember each of these 6 characteristics of goals. Now, one of the characteristics of a clear goal is that it's written. Now, does it absolutely have to be written? No, but I'm going to encourage you to write it, because once in writing, it becomes kind of an affirmation of intent, meaning that you're really committed to doing this, that you plan on following through with it. And the act of actually writing down the goals helps make them more concrete. It makes them more real to you. Okay, so after it's written down, you also need to put your goals, your goal statements in places that you're going to see every day, right? And even better, put any kind of visuals, whether it's a photo or a poster or whatever, of your goal everywhere you go, any place that you look. You can put it on your mirror, on your dresser, on your computer, on your refrigerator. Because one, of course, you don't want to forget this important challenge that you've established for yourself, but actually the process of visualization helps you reach your goal. It actually provides motivation. So please post your goals all over, and in fact, fill your life, fill your physical space with your goals. But of course, don't get overwhelmed with too many goals. Don't spend all of your time making goals that you don't actually follow through with your plans to achieve the goals. So like anything in life, moderation and balance. What's another trait of a goal? Well, it must be specific and measurable. And I really want to zoom in on this one because a lot of students don't necessarily do this one too well. So being specific means that you describe what you want to accomplish with as much detail as possible, right? The who, the what's, the whens, the wheres, the to what degrees. And measurable means that you can actually measure it and evaluate it. So you reach a certain point in time and you say, well, did I do what I said I was going to do? But it has to be specific in order to measure it. So you have to ask yourself, exactly what do I want to accomplish? And the thing that I want to warn you about here is a lot of times students are way too general or vague. So remember, again, be detailed in the who's, the what's, the whens, the where's, to what degrees. So for me, for example, one of the things I love to do is travel, and I like to hike, and I like to climb, right? And so a lot of people who are climbers, usually want to climb Mount Everest, all right? And so saying I want to climb Mount Everest is nice, but it's too general. It lacks specificity. So you might have to ask, well, how much of Everest do I want to climb? By when do I want to climb it? With whom am I climbing, right? So if you say something more specific, like I want to climb to the top of Mount Everest by the summer of 2030 with a party of 8 members of my family, that's way more specific. There is no doubt as to what you want to accomplish and whether you can measure it when you're finished. So try not to be vague, try not to be generic, try to be specific. Okay, so we have that goals are written, they're specific and measurable. What else are they? Well, they have to be realistic. You have to be capable of reaching the goal. And I do want to encourage you to make it challenging yet attainable, right? You also have to have a deadline that's doable because, of course, goals take energy and discipline to accomplish. So going back to the climbing example, the hiking example, saying you're going to climb Everest by the end of the week is not realistic, right? You want to challenge yourself, but you don't want to set yourself up to fail. It's definitely doable to hike in and around the Himalaya mountains. It's definitely doable to climb Mount Everest, but it takes years of training to get to the point of even climbing to base camp 1. So you have to be realistic in what's possible. So a lot of times people say that you need to set goals slightly out of your reach. If you set a goal that's you can do that's attainable without much work or much effort, you're going to be stuck with something below your potential, right? Below your true talent. So really try to strive for as high as you can, or at least try to make stepwise strides. So you reach one point and then you aim for a higher point. Reach that point and then aim for a higher point. And basically, guys, here is do have the highest of expectations for yourself and have the support system around you to get to that point. All right, let's summarize. We have written, specific and measurable, and realistic. A goal also needs to have a roadmap. You need to know where you're going, how you're going to get there, and of course, when you plan on arriving. And so you have to have this plan, which includes, a start date and an end date. Because if you don't have those things, you're a little bit clueless, a little bit aimless. You might even be wasting your time a little bit. So it's helpful here with the roadmap to sometimes break the goal into a little bit more manageable, a little bit more bite-sized pieces, right? You could even say short range, mid-range, and long range goals. And you could also have specific target dates of completion. So let's go back to my mountain climbing example. You could say a certain summer, and you could give a date that you will climb Mount Rainier. And then another summer you might climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and another summer you're going to climb Mount Fuji, and that last summer you're going to strive for Everest. So every year you have a goal. They're getting more challenging in the feats and more challenging in the actual climbs. You're adapting to different kinds of environments. Or you could even say, I'm going to climb different parts of Mount Everest. I'm going to climb to different base camps each summer over several years to build to the peak by whatever date, 2030, or for an example. Okay, let's review again. A clear goal is written, it's specific and measurable, it's realistic, it has a roadmap, and now, drum roll, we're going to add a clear goal anticipates the glitch factor. So there's something out there called Murphy's Law. I know you've all heard of it, and it says if something can go wrong, it probably will. It's definitely a pessimistic view, but it's the idea that we need to prepare, right? Your goals are not going to be immune to this kind of universal law. I, of course, don't want you guys to be paranoid, but you do need to try to kind of anticipate some of the problems that you might encounter along the way towards achieving your goals. So when you're planning and you're preparing, then you'll be able to be ready to meet any kind of a challenge or any kind of an obstacle, and you won't feel demoralized by it. You won't feel shocked by it. So in the Everest example, you might ask yourself, well, what if I can't get off work in summers to go practice, to go train? Or, what if a member of my team, because it's a team process, right? You don't do it alone, changes their mind or they have an accident? What if you yourself have an accident? You break your leg, you sprain a wrist. You might ask yourself, well, what if in the meantime I fall in love and I get married? Is my husband, my wife, my partner, are they going to concur? What if you have a child, right? Now you suddenly have a newborn baby. Are you going to go climbing Mount Everest? How can you anticipate this, What if you're on the mountain and you get altitude sickness, or somebody in your team gets ill? What if there's a storm on the mountain? What if you fall and you break your leg on the mountain? Or what if you come across somebody that needs your help? So you have to, ahead of time, plan for the unexpected, anticipate what's going to go wrong, and make a plan B, a plan C, and so forth. Okay, I keep reviewing because I want to get these in our heads so well. So a clear goal is written, it's specific, it's realistic, it has a roadmap, it anticipates the glitch, and it has a built-in incentives. So now, even though you want to get to a point where, of course, your goals are intrinsically motivating, we've talked about this all semester, this means that your goal is what motivates you alone. It is a good idea to recognize your achievements, so it's okay to give yourself rewards, incentives as you make progress. And in fact, you may want to actually establish a schedule of incentives, of rewards that coincide with those steps along the way. So for small steps, give yourself small rewards. For bigger goals, bigger steps, give yourself bigger rewards. But just don't give big rewards for every little baby step along the way. Okay, positive reinforcements definitely do work. Okay, let's review what we talked about. We have to identify our values, and based on our values, we then identify our goals. And we focus on our goals by making them written and visible, ensuring that they are specific and measurable, that they are realistic, they have a roadmap, they anticipate the glitch, and they have those built-in incentives. And then what? Then you go, right? Then you take action. Then you do something that advances you, right, towards achieving your goal that matches your values. And don't forget the win factor, what's important now. And lastly, I just want to remind you guys that goals are amazing. They give us direction in life. And if we don't have directions for where we're going, we may end up somewhere else, including some place that we don't want to be. So go out there, set your values, set your goals, and take action.